नमस्ते यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित् सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे. Namaste and a hearty and a warm welcome to all of you, or rather each one of you who have joined for this meeting today. It's a great occasion for all of us to be a part of Swami Vivekananda's event. Now I request our Honorable Principal, Professor K. Shailaja, to welcome the gathering.
Namaste. Very good evening to one and all. We are on 5th day of National Youth Day program commemorating 159th birthday of Swami Vivekananda. And we are immensely happy today because we have a very great speaker with us and a very great human being and a great personality here, Dr.Usha Vasthare, who is the founder, Yoga-Kshema Rehabilitation and Wellness Center and faculty, Temple University School of Medicine, Philadelphia. Actually, we were trying for you, madam, since many days to have you with us to speak to our students, young minds, offline, so that they can interact with you and learn a lot. But somehow we could not get that happen. At least today we have with you, and I congratulate Professor Hemalath to get your time on this occasion, on this auspicious occasion of Vivekananda Jayanti program. I welcome you immensely on behalf of BHS Higher Education Society, Vijaya College, our staff and students. Madam, welcome you to this occasion and to this program, madam. I welcome you all for this program. Our faculty have joined. Many students have joined to listen to you, madam. I welcome you all for this occasion, for this speech. And today we have sent the invitation to many others also outside Vijaya College. And many of the guests also have joined this program. I welcome all the guests who have joined and have a nice evening with Madam Usha Vasthare. Welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Doctor, I would like to give a small introduction of Dr. Usha Vasthare, who has achieved so much in her life. So I would just like to read out a few points in this occasion. Dr. Usha Vasthare, the founder of Yoga-Kshema Rehabilitation and Wellness Center, has been a resident of USA for the past 3 decades. She has been a faculty of Temple University School of Medicine, Philadelphia, PA, USA for a period of 17 years. So she was former faculty member. So I kindly excuse me if it is being put as faculty, but it is former faculty. Post her career at the Temple University, she also essayed the role of clinical research project coordinator at the Center for Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorders, Pennsylvania Hospital, Philadelphia, PA, USA. She has published over 70 research papers and abstracts in reputed journals and contributed to 5 books used for continuing medical education course. She was academic research advisor for MDs, postdoctoral fellows, PhDs, and master students, and has been trained in hospice care for terminally ill. In India, she has worked with Deenabandhu Children's Home, Chamarajnagar, and continues to work with Swami Vivekananda Memorial Hospital, Saragur, Heggadadevanakote, and Nivasa in Bangalore, and various institutions ranging from social to educational. Dr. Usha Vasthare conducts support group meetings for various sections of the society, ranging from homemakers, professionals to survivors of chronic illnesses and their caregivers. So far, she has conducted more than 1,000 plus such meetings. Her workshops are based on the most recent advances in neuroscientific research and are geared up to the participants in improving their quality of life. Her programs have been telecast in leading television networks like Suvarna, Udaya, Chandana, Zee Kannada, and others, as well as in radio and newspapers such as Vijay Karnataka, Udayvani in Karnataka. She has also been featured in radio talk shows in USA and South Africa and conducted workshops too. Dr. Usha Vastare's objective is to introduce positive psychology, practical and scientific methods to lead a holistic life. This includes guidance on stress management, cognitive behavior therapy, mindfulness, palliative care, and healthy living style. She aims to bring the confluence of science and ancient wisdom in her talks and workshops. Her target audiences come from all stations and all walks of life. With this is a very brief, small introduction that I gave about Dr. Usha Vasthare, whom I call Dr. Usha Vasthare Amma with great love and respect. I welcome you on this occasion, madam. And I myself, I personally have heard her speeches when she is addressing the Vidyarthi Mandiram students of Ramakrishna Vidyarthi Mandiram in Basavanagudi. She is the best speaker. ಮಲಗಿರುವಂತ ಒಬ್ಬ ಹುಡುಗ ಕೂಡ ಎದ್ದು ಕೂತು ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಕೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, ಮಾಡ್ಲೇಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. So I feel it is a great honor to have Dr. Usha Vasthare with us here today on this platform. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Shailaja and Professor Hemalata, and my dear students. Let me start sharing my screen and then I'll start. Okay. You can see the screen, right? Can you see? Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda created a new wave based on Shankara's Advaita philosophy, which has resulted in vital changes in the way human beings look upon each other. These changes have directly and indirectly resulted in change in overall thinking and action of humankind. More than 100 years ago, Swami Vivekananda had observed, quote, "In India, there are two great evils. One, trampling on the women, and secondly, grinding the poor," unquote. If we have to tackle these two issues and focus on the immense possibilities that lie for women and the poor in the future, we need to think about empowering women and poor, not just from a socio-economic educational point of view, but make a fundamental shift in the way we are looking at mankind in general. This kind of shift, this kind of fundamental paradigm shift will result in empowering every human being, be it men, women, children, and seniors alike, so that they can all realize their true innate potential to lead a life full of zest, with meaning and purpose. In this regard, I would like to focus on empowering humans as opposed to just women, because I strongly believe until and unless humans understand their true nature, they will not be able to treat women and poor equally in all respect. So my title is on self-empowerment and not limited to women empowerment. Before I start bringing in recent advances in neuroscience perspective, I would like to clarify the new term I'm using, Viveka-Vedanta, with regard to implementation of the highest Advaitic knowledge in our day-to-day lives. The 3 tenets of Swami Vivekananda's teachings, which was based on Shankaracharya's Advaita philosophy, are: first, we are all divine beings, whether we know it or not. We are all spiritual beings going through a human experience. Secondly, the goal of human life is to manifest this divinity that is already within us. And thirdly, the goal of human life is to help manifest this divinity in others also. So this Viveka-Vedanta concept, I would like to expand using just 4 words of Swami Vivekananda, which is be good, do good, which is very popular amongst the youth. So let us understand this short and powerful message of Swami Vivekananda, be good and do good, from both neuroscience perspective and scriptural perspective, and relate this to empowerment of ourselves. So with this short introduction, I would like to move on to the main topic. This is your world. This is your world, and you can shape it. This is your world, shape it. And if you don't shape it, otherwise someone else will shape it for you. So this is your world, shape it. Otherwise someone else will shape it for you. This is your future. This is your world, and you can create your own future. So says Swami Vivekananda. He says, be the architects of your own future. ಇದನ್ನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸುಲಭದಲ್ಲಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವೇ ಶಿಲ್ಪಿಗಳು. You can create your own future. What do I mean by that? That you can create your own future. You can be the architects of your own lives. How? How do we create our own future? And that path to creating our own future and to be the architects of our own lives
if I can
which
interrupt
is
you here,
empowering ourselves.
Dr. Usha,
That path, yes.
Actually, the slide has to be in a presentation mode. We are able to see only the first presentation, so it has to be in slide PowerPoint slideshow.
Yes, it is in slideshow. Let me see.
Can you please press
Now?
F5?
Can you see now?
F5
F,
option.
yeah, now?
No, ma'am. No.
Can you see it now?
No, ma'am.
Are you able to see it now?
No, ma'am. No.
Let me try again.
Yes, ma'am.
Can't, otherwise someone else will. And your path to empowerment starts from within. Again, our path to self-empowerment, it begins within us. This is one of my favorite quotes of Swami Vivekananda. You have to grow from the inside out. None can teach you. None can make you spiritual. And there is no other teacher but your own soul. This is what I call it as an inside out approach. Let us see what I mean by this inside out approach. And then I will end this talk by adding an outside in approach. So what does this mean? What it means to know ourselves is to know, Nan yaru, who am I? What am I? Let us understand this both from the scriptural perspective, using a couple of shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, and also some of the quotes of Swami Vivekananda. Bhagavad Gita nali couple of shlokas anna upyogistini. Let us see. Uddharet atmanatmanam atmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Ili ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. Krishna Bhagavan, he differentiates between lower self and higher self. Self with a small s and self with a capital S. Let's see what he says further. Bandhuratmat manastasya enatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvatu. The self with a small s is nothing but our mind, and self with a capital S is something greater than our mind, which is that Atman. And Krishna also says here, our mind can be either our friend or our enemy. How do we make our own mind as our own friend so that we get empowered by this? That is the question. So, to answer that, Swami Vivekananda says, he says, realize your own true nature. That is all there is to do. Know yourself as your infinite spirit. And that's practical religion. And everything else is impractical, for everything else will perish. So what is our true nature? What is our real nature? Our real nature is what we see ourselves as, this body, mind, sense organ complex, but it is much more than that. Some people may call it Atman, some others may call it as soul, and others may call it as spirit. Whatever you might call, but that is infinite potential. There is infinite potential within that. Atman is infinite, and this we need to figure out, and this is the goal and purpose of life, is what Swami Vivekananda says, realize that you have that Atman within you. Manifest that Atman that is already within you. And it is the same Atman which is there in each and every person, irrespective of their socio-economic, educational, and religious background. It doesn't matter. Yava matakke or seridruno, it doesn't matter. Everybody has that same true, real nature, which is infinite. And he also says that power that is within us, that infinite power that is within you, using that you can do anything and everything. This is one of famous Vivekananda's quotes that is often quoted by one and all. So let us look at this statement from a neuroscience perspective. What does Vivekananda mean by this? All power is within you and that you can do anything and everything, which means that we can be empowered by utilizing this potential. We can do that in two ways, by knowing ourselves and also mastering ourselves. What do I mean by knowing ourselves? You know, whether we know it or not, biologically speaking, we are all feeling beings and we think once in a while. Again, in a day, if you take, most of the times our behavior, our habits, our actions, of course, unless you're a student wherein you're constantly learning, that's a separate issue. But most of the time, 90% of our behavior is driven by our feelings, our emotions. We hardly use our conscious mind and the powers of our conscious mind, like our self-awareness, our discerning power, our discrimination power, our free will, our willpower. We hardly use that. Most of our behavior is driven by emotions and feelings. Again, knowing ourselves means we need to be aware of our own nature. Whether our own nature, our lower nature, or our higher nature. Even to know our own lower nature, which consists of this body, mind, sense organ complex, or of our higher nature, we need to have this awareness, which is our self-awareness, which is one of the most important qualities of human beings. Other aspect that we need to know ourselves is that most of the times we are on autopilot mode. 75 to 90% of the times we are doing things in a mechanical way, in an autopilot mode, hardly thinking in a conscious manner, hardly thinking in an effortful, rational, conscious manner. Also, all of us, without any exception, whether somebody is a professor or a student, doctor or a patient, president or a pauper, every one of us has this innate biases within us, which keeps us in the survival mode, which prevents us to flourish, which prevents us to evolve, which prevents us to uplift ourselves, which prevents us to empower ourselves. So, to know ourselves, we need to overcome this innate and unconscious biases that we have. Let us see what it is in a little while. So after we know ourselves with those three aspects, we need to master ourselves to get empowered and to uplift ourselves. And how do we master ourselves? I'm just going to give in the most basic and simplistic manner by saying, If we can change our mind in a specific, effortful, conscious, deliberate ways, then we can change the very structure and function of the brain. This is how we can master ourselves. This is how we can uplift ourselves. This is how we can empower ourselves. We all know that we need to be positive. So many of us say we have positive thoughts and we also have positive feelings. We also speak in a positive manner. All these are important, but even more important, and along with thinking positive, feeling positive, and speaking positive, all of these need to be followed by positive actions. When we do this, this whole process is called neuroplasticity. When we start with our thoughts, positive thoughts, and put the right feelings, talk about it, and end up with action, that whole process is called neuroplasticity. And this Vivekananda has very simply put this in just 4 words. It's actually 3 words, the same word repeated twice. He says, be good and do good. If we have to be good, we have to think good. And if we have to act upon it, we have to do good. As simple as that. So brain and mind is like in human beings, in us, very briefly. So it will help us to empower ourselves. We know, scientists know that brain has unlimited potential. And this is what Swami Vivekananda meant. All power is within you. And you can do anything and everything once you realize this power and how to utilize that power. And what does he mean by that? Let us look at it in a scientific way. You have all heard about brain cells. I'll take you, some of you, back to your high school biology days. One of the type of brain cells we know, they are called neurons. And not only neurons, there are other cells called supporting cells, glial cells, astroglial cells, and whatnot. So let's just take cells as neurons, nerve cells, neurons. You know, in humans, there isn't anything in our body that is not useful. And we know if something is not useful, it becomes a vestigial organ that is not used at all. Whereas these brain cells, when compared to our closest 4-legged cousins with a tail, the chimpanzees, our brain is so well developed, and the number of neurons that we have, and not just the number of neurons and the neuronal connections between many other neurons, is so immense. It is really hard to believe. If I were not to be a neuroscientist, you will not even believe if I say how many neurons we have in a human being. Instead of just giving you the number, saying that it is 1 followed by so many zeros, I will take an analogy and then give you so that you'll be able to appreciate the number of neurons that we have in the brain. How much time does it take to count 1 neuron? I would say 1 second, right? So if it takes 1 second to count 1 neuron, to count all the individual neurons that we have in a human brain, can you imagine how long it might take? It is truly hard to imagine. I'm just going to give it to you. It literally takes over 3,100 years to count all the individual neurons that we have in our brain. So there is a reason for these number of neurons. And it's not just individual neurons, and the humans have the capacity to connect one neuron to many thousands and thousands of neurons in the different parts of the brain. So much so, each neuron can connect up to 10,000 other neurons to form a neural net or neural network. And in some regions of the brain, each neuron can connect up to 100,000 other neurons to form that such strong neural nets. There is a reason to truly implement this Viveka-Vedanta, the 3 tenets that I spoke about in the beginning during the introduction. We need to be using all these neurons from many different regions of the brain, so as to say, using different real estate of the brain. The more real estate of the brain that we use, the better, to be able to truly, without any doubt, understand that we are truly divine beings going through human experience. And to manifest this divinity, what does that mean, manifesting divinity? It's manifesting all the good qualities that we know of, that are there in gods and divine beings. It is the same divine qualities that also present in human beings, except the major difference is that these same divine qualities like loving, forgiving, being compassionate, being empathetic, being kind, being humble, and have the humility, all of this, we only use these things once in a while or towards only few people. If we expand our consciousness, like what Vivekananda says, expansion is life, contraction is death. As we expand our consciousness more and more and more, we will be able to manifest these divine qualities and extend it to not only few people that are there in our lives, me and mine, but to everybody else. This is the reason that we have so many unlimited number of neurons and the neuronal connections, much more than just the number of neurons. It is literally unlimited connections. In the same way, our brain is like a biggest pharmacy that is open 24/7. It is open until our last breath, because each thought, each feeling, each emotion that we feel, it releases a chemical. Yeah, open 24/7 and until the last breath, as I was saying. And every thought, feeling, and emotion releases a chemical. And if we have noble thoughts, positive thoughts, the brain will release positive chemicals. And if we have negative thoughts, the brain will also release negative chemicals. So understanding this concept, we can use this concept of brain is like a biggest pharmacy that is open 24/7 and until our last breath, and use this information to regulate our feelings and emotions. The third aspect that we need to understand about our brain to know the unlimited potential is that our brain acts like a genie, like a magician. Our brain eagerly waits for every command that we give it to our own brain. And it is ready to carry out, just like a magician. It carries out each and every command. The only thing we need to remember is that whatever we ask for, the brain, we need to follow that desire, that command, that ambition by action. That is why I always say, convert your desire, convert your ambition into a goal. Because if it becomes a goal, then you have a plan of action. Then you can act upon it. As long as you have a goal, the brain can work like a magician. So even after knowing all of this, what is it that prevents us? What is it that prevents us to empower ourselves, to uplift ourselves? Again, science comes to the rescue and tries to make us understand that within each and every one of us, without any exception, again, whether somebody is a saint or a scientist, professor or a student, doctor or a student, each and every one of us has this negativity bias or partiality towards negativity, so much so that the negative thoughts that come up within us, they act like our mind and brain acts like Velcro for the negative thoughts that come about in our minds. Whereas there are many positive thoughts that come about, but our mind and brain acts like Teflon material. You know what the Teflon material is. Nama kitchen alli non-stick pan upyogisi na rotti dose eshtu sulabhavagi ಮಾಡಬಹುದಲ್ಲ, because it is coated by the Teflon material. So our brain and mind acts like Teflon for all positive thoughts. They get washed away. So much so, we will be left with many, many negative thoughts because the brain acts like Velcro. All the negative thoughts stick. And so we are left with many negative thoughts, which are called as automatic negative thoughts. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to put any effort. They come spontaneously and automatically. And if you take the first letter of each of those words, you know they become ant. Just like in the picture, you only see, it's not just like in the picture. In the picture, you only see one type of ant. But in nature, you see many different types of ants in a similar manner. Even in our mind, just like red ants, black ants, termites, and whatnot, we also get many different types of automatic negative thoughts. We don't need to go into that in detail, but what happens when we get these ants, in other words, automatic negative thoughts? When these automatic negative thoughts, they go unnoticed and unchecked. Because just like in nature, you hardly see a stray ant, right? You see ants come in groups or one behind the other, they walk around. In a similar manner, our automatic negative thoughts come one after another. And when they go unnoticed and when they go unchecked, our mind goes back and forth like a pendulum between past and future. And because of these ants, automatic negative thoughts, we look at the past with regret and we are worried and anxious about the future. And whatever is happening in the present moment, we are never ever satisfied with this. Because we are not satisfied with the present moment, and because the mind goes back and forth between past and future, it never ever stays in the present moment, hardly ever stays in the present moment, here and now and here. But if you really think about it, just a little bit go deeper into this, there is nothing like past and future. Past and future are our mental constructs. Whatever happens, whatever we do, whatever actions that we take, we can only take in the present moment, here and now and here. Everything happens at the level of thought, but the level of action, doing good, can only happen in the present moment. We can be thinking about good things. We can be feeling about good things. we did that yesterday also, but when we have to act upon it, we can only act upon it in this moment. So what I'm saying is, whether we know it or not, all we have is this present moment and nothing else. Because of these unchecked and unnoticed automatic negative thoughts, we face many of these consequences, like we cannot change easily, and we are not proactive, and we shun away from responsibilities. And it is hard for us to learn new things. We cannot be what we want to be, and we are not as happy and successful as we would like to be. These are the consequences of unnoticed and unchecked automatic negative thoughts, also called ants. Because of this, it is really tough to be empowered and to uplift ourselves and to be empowered. See, even then, there is no solution outside. There is no colored pill that comes in a white glass bottle that we can take it in and then get rid of these ants, automatic negative thoughts. Only through knowledge can we get rid of these ants. So ultimately, the most important thing that we need to remember about this negativity bias and these ants, automatic negative thoughts, they prevent us to be in the present moment. But only in the present moment can we be doing anything for that matter. Extremely important aspect to remember. So if that is the case, how do we overcome these ants, automatic negative thoughts? Very simple, says Vivekananda. He says, be good and do good. And I'm going to look at this from a neuroscientific angle and say, this is a new concept I'm trying to introduce. Just think about this. What does a sculptor do? You see the picture there. A sculptor is sculpting out Anjaneya, Hanumanta. What does he do? How does he start out? He takes a huge boulder or a stone. He sees, not you and me, but the sculptor sees how that Anjaneya should shape up in that big boulder or stone. Whatever is not Anjaneya, he removes. He does not take anything from outside and makes it Anjaneya or any sculpture for that matter, but he removes all the unwanted stones to bring out the masterpiece. This concept is called neurosculpting. If we remove away all the unwanted things like these automatic negative thoughts by using our conscious mind qualities like self-awareness, willpower, discrimination power, and our free will, power to choose, then we can shape our own future. We can be the architects of our own lives. We can be the neurosculptors of our own lives. ಇದನ್ನೇ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇ ಶಿಲ್ಪಿಗಳು ಅಂತ. We have three in one concept. For a sculptor outside, for a ಶಿಲ್ಪಿ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಕಲ್ಲುನು ಬೇರೆ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ಬೇರೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. But for us to be neurosculptors, our own brain is the marble. Our own future that we are creating, that is the masterpiece, that is the sculpture. And we are the sculptors. And the tools are these qualities of our mind. by using discrimination power, self-awareness, and willpower to get rid of the automatic negative thoughts and to shape our own lives. This whole concept of neurosculpting, when we do, it actually changes the brain, both at the structural level and the functional level. And this, when we change our brain, we change our lives. This is what new neuroscience research says. If you need to change your life, you ought to, and you need to change your brain if you need to change your life. And that process of changing our brain is called neuroplasticity. And as we saw, it begins from a thought, from a single thought, and it ends up in action. And this is what Vivekananda says, be good. Being good, it starts from a good thought. But we have to put that good thought into action by doing good. Then long-lasting changes can happen. This is how we empower ourselves and uplift ourselves. So putting the two together, neuroscience and Viveka-Vedanta, if I need to conclude, I said I started with inside-out approach. Once we know who we are, that we are not this body-mind complex, but we are much more than that. We have this infinite capacity hidden within us, which we call that, from a scriptural perspective, we call that Atman. That is that inside out approach. Know that you're not just this body mind, but you are this Atman, and work outside by doing good, manifesting the divinity, knowing who we are. That is the inside out approach. And outside in approach is without knowing any of this, we will be doing good. So start from doing good and slowly understand your true nature. That is the outside in approach. So by using both these approaches, inside out approach and outside in approach, we can get empowered. So if I have to just say Vivekananda's quote, be good, do good, and just don't stop there. See good in yourselves and see good in others. And it is not about, I did it the other day, yesterday, or last year, or I will plan to do it tomorrow, because there is nothing like yesterday or tomorrow. Whatever we want to do, it can only happen in the now, whether we know it or not. Now is all we have. So be good, do good, and see good right now and right here. With that, I'm going to end my talk and take up any questions if you may have. I hope you were able to see the slides.
Yes, madam. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Dwarkanath.
Yes.
So I have a question. So, I mean, it was a good insight on how the neuroscience works and it's in sync with the philosophy. But end of the day, in a society where we live, we are interdependent. So we cannot expect the thinking alike person with whom we interact. Like just it could be anyone, my friends or my family I may try to be too good, but end of the day, at one point of time, there is a situation where you can't accept that. So that is when we'll also get demotivated and lose faith on ourselves. And perhaps I'm not sure whether I put it across in a right way, but yeah, vaguely this is the question I do have now.
Sure. Great question. And very important one for us to understand properly. I'm going to answer this with two aspects. One, we need to be the change that we want to see in others, not expecting others to change. Because the only thing that we have under our control is ourselves. That is first. And the second thing is to remember what we call a serenity prayer, which goes like this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and grant me the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I usually start off my talks and workshops by saying this: we are here today to understand our own mind and to change ourselves, not to change others' behaviors. It is not under our control. Even though our mind is under our own control, we know how tough it is to change our own minds in a highly structured, effortful manner to be able to change our lives. Even a small habit, if we have to change, we know how tough it is. So it is a futile attempt to expect somebody else to change. It is not about expecting them to change, but if we keep changing ourselves, hoping others would change, they will definitely change as long as we are changing. This is also a law of nature. If we just expect them to change, they will not. However, if we focus on ourselves, if we keep changing ourselves, eventually others will also change. Great question, Dwarkanath. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
A very positive answer, madam. Very nicely
Hello, madam.
across.
Hello, madam.
Yes.
Siddharmurthy. My question is, you were talking about changing the mind. And in mythology and even in yoga, they talk about prarabdha, karma and those things. So what is the role of those factors when we try to change? They may come in the way, no? Prarabdha karma or sanchita karma, those things. Can you please link those two things?
Yeah. Anything can be changed. That is what even our Upanishads say. Irrespective what the previous karmas are, whether it is the prarabdha karma, sanchita karma, agami karma, we keep on accumulating as long as we are alive. However, this is, if I have to put it in a scientific terminology, these karmas, what you call or vrittis, they are hardwired into our brain. And the new neuroscience research shows that it is possible to rewire the brain. Irrespective of how certain habits are hardwired, irrespective of that, it is absolutely possible to change. First and foremost, we need to believe in this. And second of all, we need to know the tools and techniques of how we can change, how we can rewire our brains. Rewiring brain in a technical manner is changing our karmas. Of course, in a half hour, 1 hour talk, it is not possible to do that. In an extended a period of time. Sometimes it's over a couple of days or even more than that. We go through in great detail, in a systematic, organized way, to show how we can rewire our own brains and shape our own lives and be the neurosculptors of our own lives.
Thank you. Thank you.
Scriptures don't, without any doubt, we can accept the scriptures. Even the scriptures, it says that it is possible. But now we have hardcore evidence-based research, and the terminologies are different, that's all. I'm not saying anything new. What has been said in the scriptures, the terminology is different, that's all.
Thank you, madam.
Madam, one second, shall I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Madam, as you said, I am also a biologist. As I know, in our body, only the nerve cells which are not multiplying after our birth. Everybody has got the same number of nerve cells what they got at the time of birth. So, and this intelligence or the characteristics will depend upon genes, what they got from their parents or grandparents. So, is it possible to change a person completely by training him in a particular idea, giving repeatedly the same idea? Is it possible? As a neuroscientist, I want to ask you this question.
Great question again, Gopalakrishna. What I'm talking about is very recent advances in neuroscience research. What we thought of nerve cells, we used to call that as post-mitotic cells, right? Being a biologist, you know the term post-mitotic cells. That means they're not able to divide again.
Yes, sir.
What new research has shown that there is neurogenesis in the brain. It was mind-boggling evidence that we got that there are new nerve cells that are being generated in adults, which has opened up a whole vista for treatment of dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and many other neurological disorders wherein different regions of the brain is affected. So not only do we know that new neurons are generated, and what I'm talking about is neuroplasticity. It is not even about the new neurons. It is about forging new connections with the existing neurons. So there are two types or two ways how this can happen. One through neuroplasticity and another through neurogenesis. Both of these are really recent advances in neuroscience research that I'm trying to share with you all. And this kind of research has opened up vistas in many of the treatment of many of the disorders. Of course, there is still, it's going to take quite a bit of time, but already such work has begun.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else? Okay, madam, thank you so much. You gave such a good insight on positive thinking. As Swami Vivekananda says, we should have mind to think, heart to feel, and hands to work. So if this coordinates all these three, the mind, the heart, and the hand, I think we can achieve. With positive thinking, we can definitely achieve the goal. As rightly put across, we talk about these things in neural networks, in artificial intelligence. Of course, it's a very, still emerging technology which is coming up. We have lots to achieve here. ನೀವು ಹೇಳೋ ಪ್ರಕಾರ we need 3,100 years to count the number of neurons. ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ I was just thinking, because I try to think in terms of artificial intelligence. Is it possible for us to develop such kind of a robot which can think and feel in terms of human beings? So it was, I don't know whether we'll be able to achieve that or not. But with positive thinking, I will say yes. Definitely yes. Thank you so much for your wonderful speech today, and giving us some light on neuroplasticity and positive thinking, and we can achieve what we want. Thank you so much for this speech. And on behalf of our VHS Higher Education Society, on behalf of Vijaya College, on behalf of all the viewers here, all my dear students, I wholeheartedly thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you very much for this speech.
Namaste.
Namaste, madam. Dear friends and my dear students and my dear colleagues, thank you so much for being on this platform today. It was a wonderful talk, and it was very nice that you people have attended. Thank you so much. I thank wholeheartedly our honorable principal also, and other dear colleague members once again for attending this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.